Sorry for the delay. Please start.
Yeah. Good morning, all. Good morning, students. I welcome you all to the webinar series of Telangana State Model Schools. Now, today we are going to have physics class. And in the previous physics sessions, we have dealt with interesting phenomenon of ray optics and optical instruments by Mrs. Joshi Prasanna. And to continue with the same spirit, to continue with the sessions, now today we have with us Mrs. Joshi Prasanna, PGT Physics, working in Telangana State Model School, R.C. Puram Sangareddy. And I hand over the session to Madam and request Madam to proceed with the session.
Thank you, Madam. Good morning, everyone. So I'm Joshi Prasanna, PGT Physics from Telangana State Model School, Velimela, which belongs to R.C. Puram Mandal. Children, we have had already some sessions on the topics ray optics and optical instruments. There were series of sessions. So please do watch those sessions to understand more better the present sessions. Okay, children. So please make sure that you watch those videos too. Okay. So let me recall now what we have already discussed in the previous sessions. Okay, children. Those of you who have watched have the clear understanding of reflection at plane and curved surfaces. Then you will also know about refraction at plane and curved surfaces. Then about the mirror equation and lens formulae. We have also discussed refraction from one medium to the other. Here we have discussed what happens to light when it moves from denser medium to rarer medium and rarer medium to denser medium. Isn't it, children? Do you remember that? Yes. Then in detail, we have also gone through what is critical angle and the concept total internal reflection. And we have also discussed about the applications of total internal reflection, where in detail we came to know about mirage, brilliance of diamond, and optical fibers. So once again, I am reminding you, for the complete understanding of this course, you please watch the previous videos so that you will have the better understanding. Okay, children. So today we have here the more important we have an important points to discuss, that is refraction through a prism, finding the refractive index of the material of a prism using Snell's law, and we have dispersion through prism. These are the three key points that we are going to discuss today in our session. Okay, children. So please be focused and listen to the class carefully. Then once again, I would like to draw your attention to these topics because these topics are very important for your examinations. So children, along with listening, please maintain a book and pen with you so that you can note down. And when we discuss the refractive index of the material of a prism, it is a derivation part. So please follow it with a pen and book. Okay, children. Please, those of you who have no pen with you, please take the pen and book and be ready for the session. Okay, children. So first of all, what is the refraction through prism? Have you heard of prism, children? Yes, some of you might have seen it in your physics labs, isn't it? So this prism, whenever you think of prism, you remember the band of colors, isn't it? The spectacular colors of violet, indigo, red, orange, blue, all these colors, isn't it, children? So these colorful phenomena only that we are going to discuss today. The same thing you see in your rainbow, isn't it? Are they interrelated? Yes, certainly. That is what you are going to see in today's lesson. Okay, children. So first of all, let me give you the clear understanding of what is prism. Okay, children. So look at the diagram here. Did you see the prism like this in your physics lab? Of course, isn't it? So these kind of prisms are usually used in our physics labs. They are equilateral prisms made up of glass material, isn't it, children? Sometimes, depending on the application it is used for, it is also made up of plastic called fluoride. Okay, children. So, though the prism has many shapes and sizes, we have the traditional prism looking like this. So in our physics lab, the prism looks like this, isn't it? If you look at this prism, see here, it has triangular surfaces, also rectangular surfaces. If you observe closely, it has two triangular surfaces and three rectangular surfaces. Did you observe, children? Yes. So the refraction at one triangular surface or one rectangular surface and the other refraction occurs at another rectangular surface. Okay, children. So how can we define a prism? It is a glass prism made up of a transparent material. I said it should be made up of because refraction has to take place, isn't it? So it is made up of a transparent material having two triangular ends and three rectangular lateral surfaces. And the main important characteristic of a prism is it refracts light when it falls on it. That is what? When light falls on one refracting surface of the prism, the other band of colors is emerging out of the prism if you observe in this animation. Can you observe, children? So this is the wonderful thing about the prism. So in detail, let me give you the explanation about the prism. First of all, to derive the equation for the refractive index of the material of a prism, you need to have some understanding of the terminologies used in the prism. Okay, children. So now I have taken the primary section of the prism, the front portion of the prism. Okay, so ABC is one of the triangular surfaces of the prism. If you look at this triangle, I have named it as A, B, C. Okay, so what is PQ, children? Because at it is hitting the surface AB, it is nothing but the incident ray, isn't it, children? So you know already about that incident ray. The ray which is coming from the source and hitting the optical element is called incident ray. So PQ is the incident ray and it is touching the or hitting the prism at Q. This is point of incidence, isn't it? So at this point of incidence, if we draw a normal and I gives the angle of incidence. So PQ is the incident ray and I is the angle of incidence. And this incident ray is at the interface of air and prism, that is the glass, isn't it? So at the air and glass interface, it will undergo, the light undergoes refraction, yes. So because of this refraction and the light here at this interface from air to glass, it is moving from rarer medium to denser medium. Isn't it, children? So if you remember, the whenever light travels from rarer to denser, it moves towards the normal. That is what is seen here in this red colored ray. That is what is that ray called as? That is refracted ray. So this ray traveling through the prism encounters another surface AC. So at point R again, it is encountering the glass air interface. Once again, the second refraction takes place here. Okay, children. Before that, what is QR? QR is a refracted ray and R is the angle of refraction because it is the angle between the normal and the refracted ray. Okay, children. Now, after getting refracted at the second interface, what happened? It is coming out or emerging out as RS. This is the second refracted ray. This refracted ray, I call it as emergent ray. Why? It is getting emerged from the prism. Children, do you understand? It is getting emerged out of the prism. That is why we call it as emergent ray and the corresponding angle with respect to normal is measured as emergent angle. The second refracted ray is called as emergent ray. Okay, children. Now, what are the two refracting surfaces we have considered here? AB and AC. Now, let us understand what is the angle of prism. We have PQ entering through AB and RS coming out of AC. So, the angle of prism is the angle between the two inclined surfaces from which the light is entering and the light is emerging out. So what is the angle of prism? It is A. Usually in our physics labs, we use the equilateral prism. So we take it as angle A equal to 60 degrees. Even if it is not equilateral, they will give you in exams the value of A so that you can do your numericals. Okay, children. So next important point is angle of deviation. So this angle of deviation is the one which characterizes the prism. So we will understand clearly what exactly is angle of deviation. Children, what do you mean by deviation? Deviation means, suppose if you want to know the path to somewhere, the way to reach post office or bus stop, you will ask somebody. They will say the way to it. Suppose you changed the, or without your knowledge you changed the path, what happens? You are just deviating. That means you are changing the direction of your path. That is called deviation. So here the angle of deviation is something, the direction of ray is being changed. Which ray? Let us look at the ray. So the same geometry is used here. Look at the diagram. A, B, C is the principal section of the prism. PQ is the incident ray touching the interface at the prism, the one refracting surface at E. Can you observe, children? And N is the normal. EF is the refracted ray. Again, it is touching the other surface at F, and MM dash is the other normal through which the emergent ray, and at this point from this point the emergent ray is coming out as RS. Okay, children. So now let me draw your attention. Focus, children. What is angle of deviation? Look at the ray PQ. Suppose if ABC is not there, suppose prism is not there, what happens to the direction of the ray? The PQ will follow a straight line path, that is through PQEGH. Isn't it, children? I have extended the direction of this incident ray GH. Can you observe here? So what is the path of incident ray? It is PQEGH. Okay, children. But because the prism is present, the ray is following the path PQEFRS. Isn't it, children? That means the ray which has to follow this path, that is PQEGH, following the path PQEFRS. That means it is deviating its path. Isn't it, children? That is why I have extended forward the incident ray and extended backwards the emergent ray. The angle between these two rays, I take it as angle of deviation. Okay, children. So this is incident ray and this is emergent ray. The angle between these two rays is nothing but the angle of deviation. So let me define what is angle of deviation, children. It is the angle between the emergent ray, which is which is extended backwards, and the incident ray, and the direction of the incident ray extended forward. The angle between the incident ray and emergent ray is called as angle of deviation. So remember this point clearly, children. If you have any doubt, you again watch this slide and get the clear understanding of what is angle of deviation. Okay, children. Now, before entering into the actual derivation, let us also think of some of geometric rules. Okay, children, what are the different geometric rules? These are actually basic rules which you already know, but I'm just recalling those ideas for you because ray optics is something to do with geometrical laws and principles, isn't it? So we are taking the help of geometry here. Look at the diagram here. What is this? This is a quadrilateral, isn't it? Quadrilateral has four sides and these vertex are named as A, B, C, D. Now tell me, what is the sum of the angles in a quadrilateral? They are 60 degrees, isn't it, children? So, and we know one more point. What are the opposite angles here? Angle B and angle D. And the other set of opposite angles are angle A and angle C. Isn't it, children? So, the sum of opposite angles are also equal to 180 degrees in a quadrilateral. So you have to remember the point. The sum of opposite angles in a quadrilateral is always equal to 180 degrees. That means angle B plus angle D is equal to 180 degrees, and angle A plus angle C is equal to 180 degrees, and 180 plus 180, the total angle of the quadrilateral is 360 degrees. Okay, children. Next principle or next rule you have to remember is, look at the diagram. It is a triangle. Yes, it is represented as PQR. What are the sum of angles of a triangle? The sum is 180 degrees again. So remember this point also. Next rule. Here also I have a triangle, which is the exterior angle of the triangle can be seen here as P. Did you observe, children? So we know a geometrical principle based on the exterior angles and the interior angles. That is, the exterior angle is equal to sum of interior angles. So angle P equal to angle Q plus angle R. This is the third rule you have to keep in your mind. Next important rule, children. So look at the two intersecting lines here. So what is X and Y here? They are the vertically opposite angles. When you have two intersecting lines and having two opposite angles, two vertically opposite angles, the rule corresponding to these vertical opposite angles is the vertically opposite angles are always equal. That means angle X equal to angle Y. Did you understand, children? So these are the four rules you have to keep in your mind to understand the derivation part that we are going to discuss further. Okay, children. So the sum of the angles in a quadrilateral is 360 degrees. Sum of the angles in a triangle is equal to 180 degrees. Exterior angle equal to sum of interior angles, and the vertically opposite angles are equal. So remember these points, and let us start our discussion on refractive index of the material of a prism. Once again, I am reminding you, children, take your pen and book along with me. You have to write the derivation in your notebook so that you will understand the refractive index of the material clearly. Okay, children. So many of you will have doubts in this geometrical part. So listen carefully and look at the diagram to understand the terminology. Okay, children. ABC is the principal section of the prism. PQ is the incident ray, and N is the normal. The angle of incidence is the angle between the normal and PQ. Then what is the refracted ray? QR is the refracted ray. Here we have two refracting angles, R1 and R2, which are measured between the normal and the refracted ray on both the sides. Then RS is the emergent ray, and angle E is the angle of emergence. And if you observe, this emergent ray extended backward, the incident ray extended forward is given as a angle of deviation, which I have represented as delta. Okay, children. So angle of deviation is also taken at M. Can you see, children? So this is about the diagram. Okay, children. Now let me take part by part to give you the understanding. The first part here in the derivation is I will derive the relation between A, R1 and R2. What is A? Angle of the prism. R1 and R2 are the two angle of refractions. Okay, children, let me derive for you this relation first. For that purpose, I will make use of the quadrilateral AQNR. It is taken here, extracted here, see, AQNR. We know already from the rules we have discussed, the opposite angles in a quadrilateral, the sum of opposite angles of a quadrilateral is equal to 180 degrees. Therefore, in the quadrilateral AQNR, I have written angle A plus angle QNR. These two are opposite angles. So the sum of these two angles is 180 degrees. Take that as first equation. Okay, children. Hope, children, you are all writing. Yes, follow the derivation clearly. Next, if you take the triangle QNR, look at the triangle QNR. What is that you have? We know from this triangle, the sum of the angles in a triangle is equal to 180 degrees. That is what is written. R1 plus R2 plus angle QNR. All the three angles, the sum of these three angles equal to 180 degrees. Okay, children. Now, for simplifying it, I have written angle QNR equal to. What happens to R1 plus R2 value if you take to the right hand side? It will take the negative sign. So angle QNR equal to 180 minus R1 plus R2. Take it as a second equation. Okay, children. Here we have used the rule regarding quadrilateral and triangle. Now we will simplify these two expressions by substituting the second equation in the first equation. Okay, children. So in the second equation, we have the value of angle Q and R, isn't it? So let us substitute this value here. So I have written that same expression, angle A plus 180 degrees minus R1 plus R2 is the value of angle QNR. Angle QNR. So I have written 180 minus R1 plus R2, and right hand side term I have written as it is, that is 180 degrees. Left hand side, right hand side, we have 180 degrees. Cancel them out and you get angle A equal to R1 plus R2. Take it as third equation. What did we do here, children? First of all, we have considered the quadrilateral AQNR and we have written the first expression. Next, we have considered the triangle QNR and written the second equation, second expression. Substitute the second equation into the first equation. We got angle A equal to R1 plus R2. That is, angle of the prism equal to sum of the angle of refractions. That is what we have got. Term it as the third equation. Okay, children. So now we come to the second important discussion about the refractive index of the material of a prism. I just carry forwarded the value we have derived there, that is angle A is equal to R1 plus R2. Now, the second point is, let us derive the relation between I, E, A and delta. Okay, children, D I have represented as D. You can take it as a delta also. Okay, children. So, we will derive the relation between I, E, A and the angle of deviation. Okay, children. So, for that purpose, let us consider the triangle QMR. I have extracted here and see what is the exterior angle present here? That is delta. Okay, what is the angles present here? Angle 1 and angle 2. We know the rule where the exterior angle is equal to sum of interior angles. That is what I have written. That is delta equal to angle 1 plus angle 2. Did you all understand, children? This is delta is equal to angle 1 plus angle 2. And we have another rule which we have studied in the previous slides, that is the vertically opposite angles are equal. Here, if you observe these two rays, two intersecting lines, then the angle of incidence I will be equal to 1 plus R1, isn't it, children? Same way, if you look at the angle of emergence and the opposite angles here, E equal to 2 plus R2, isn't it, children? That is what I have written here. So, I is equal to 1 plus R1, E is equal to 2 plus R2. How did we get this? Because vertically opposite angles are equal. Okay, children. So, if I is equal to 1 plus R1, what is the value of angle 1? That will be I minus R1, isn't it? And what is the value of angle 2? It will be E minus R2. So next, delta is equal to angle 1 plus angle 2. In the place of angle 1, I have written I minus R1, E minus R2. Listen carefully once again, children. Because angle 1 plus R1 is equal to I wrote angle 1 is equal to I minus R1. Angle 2 equal to E minus R2. That is what I have substituted here. Because delta is equal to angle 1 plus angle 2. I have written here delta is equal to I minus R1 plus E minus R2. Let us simplify this. Write the positive terms one side. and take the negative terms another side. We get I plus E minus R1 plus R2. Okay, now because angle A is equal to R1 plus R2, can we substitute A here? Yes, exactly. We will substitute and we get delta value, that is the deviation angle, as I plus E minus A. Did you get the expression, children? Are you all writing? Please write. Delta is equal to I plus E minus, instead of R1 plus R2, I have written E. So what is the expression we got? Angle of deviation is equal to I plus E minus E. Okay, children, take it as the fourth equation. So in the previous slide, we have derived the relation between A, R1 and R2. Here we have derived the relation between delta I, E and E. Okay, children. So remember these two expressions. So for the different angles of incidence, we have to find out if different angles of emergence and also deviation. So for that purpose, we have to slowly increase the incident angle from 30 degrees to 35, 40, 45, 50, and we have to note the corresponding angle of emergence and angle of deviation values in a table. Okay, children. So after drawing the drawings like this, we will get the values like this E and D and tabulate them in a table. Okay, children. So in the table, I have tabulated these values. For different angle of incidences, I got angle of emergence and also angle of deviation. Look at the values, children, here. Angle of incidence is increasing 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. And what is the pattern of angle of emergence? Angle of emergence is also increasing as the angle of incidence is increasing. Now, look at closely at the angle of deviation values. Look at the value for 30 degrees, for the angle of incidence equal to 30 degrees. What is the value of angle of deviation? 25. As the angle of incidence is taken 35, the angle of deviation has decreased to 22 degrees. Isn't it, children? Now, at the angle of deviation 40 degrees, what happened? See, it has become and it has furthermore decreased to 20 degrees. Now, further if you increase to 45, what happened to the value of angle of deviation? It has increased. Can you observe, children? Yes, for 50 degrees, again it increased. That means if you observe the behavior of this angle of deviation, the pattern of the values here, as the angle of incidence is increasing, angle of deviation is slowly decreasing, coming to a minimum value, and again it started increasing. Did you observe, children? Angle of deviation is slowly decreasing, coming to a minimum value 20, and again it is increasing. So if you observe carefully, at the angle of deviation equal to 20 degrees, what are the value of angle of incidence and angle of emergence? They are 40 degrees. So what can you conclude from here, children? At the minimum angle of deviation, we have angle of incidence equal to angle of emergence. Did you observe, children? At the minimum angle of deviation, we have angle of incidence equal to angle of emergence. So now I'm trying to draw the graph between this angle of incidence and angle of deviation. What is the behavior of the graph? Look at the graph, children. The angle of deviation, as the angle of incidence is increasing, angle of deviation is slowly decreasing, and again it started increasing. So when it decreased to a minimum value. At this minimum value, I became equal to E. Isn't it, children? That is what I have written. So what is this angle of minimum deviation means? It is as the angle of incidence is increasing gradually, the angle of deviation decreases slowly and reaches a minimum value, and again it increases. This particular minimum value of deviation only is called as angle of minimum deviation. So this least value of minimum deviation is represented by d suffix m. Just for representation sake, we have taken dm. Okay, children. So delta can be at the angle of incidence, at the angle of minimum deviation. Delta should be represented with dm. Okay, children. So as the at the angle of minimum deviation, we have values. What are the values we have? At delta is equal to delta dm, we have I is equal to E, isn't it, children? I is equal to E. And if you observe, whenever I is equal to E, what happens? This refracted ray QR seems to be exactly parallel to the base of the prism BC. Okay, children. So these two rays QR and BC are parallel to each other. Therefore, from this geometry of the figure, we can write R1 equal to R2. That is what I have written here. R1 is equal to R2. So at the angle of minimum deviation, we have delta is equal to dm, I is equal to E, and R1 is equal to R2. Now, let us write the formula for refractive index of the prism using these values, that is delta is equal to dm, I is equal to E, and R1 is equal to R2. And in the previous slides, we have the equations 3 and 4. What are those equations, children? Angle A equal to R1 plus R2, delta is equal to I plus E minus A. Okay, so take the fourth equation. Now substitute these values. Because I is equal to E, I can write delta is equal to I plus I minus A. That is what I have written here. Delta is equal to I plus I minus A. So we can write delta, okay, instead of delta, what should be written? dm. dm is equal to 2I minus A. Okay, children. So what did we get? Finally, I is equal to, that is the angle of incidence is equal to A plus D by 2. This D is dm here. Okay, children. Next, take the equation 3. Take the equation 3 and write angle A is equal to R1 plus R2, and we have R1 is equal to R2, which can be considered as R. Therefore, we can write angle A is equal to 2R. Isn't it, children? So what is R equal to? R equal to A by 2. Okay, so we have the values I and R. Now, what is our main aim here? To find the refractive index of the material of a prism. If we consider the refractive index to be n or mu, what can be what can be given, what can the Snell's law gives us? It gives us the relation between I, R and n. So n is equal to, what is Snell's law? N is equal to sin I by sin R. So substitute I and R values from here. We get n equal to sin A plus D by 2 by sin A by 2. What did we do in the final step, children? We have substituted the values of I and R in the Snell's law, that is n is equal to sin I by sin R. Instead of R, we have written A plus D by 2. Instead of instead of I, we have written A plus D by 2. Instead of R, we have written A by 2. So we have the expression for refractive index of the material of a prism, n equal to sin A plus D by 2 by sin A by 2. So what did we do, children? First of all, we found the relation between A, R1 and R2. Then we found the relation between delta I, E and A. Then at the minimum deviation angle, we have got these values, substituted these values in 3 and 4, and we got the final expressions as I is equal to A plus D by 2, R is equal to A by 2. Substituted them in Snell's law, we got the expression for refractive index of the material of a prism. Okay, children. So what is the formula for the refractive index of the material of a prism? That is n equal to sin A plus D by 2 by sin A by 2, where n is the refractive index of the material of a prism, A is the angle of the prism, D is the angle of minimum deviation. Okay, children. So at the angle of minimum deviation, if we write the formula for refractive index, that is n is equal to sin A plus D by 2 by sin A by 2, which is also called as prism formula. And the main important point here is this formula is applicable only at the angle of minimum deviation. Okay, children. So write this formula separately, put a box and over it, and learn this formula because it is important for your IPE and competitive exams also. The numericals related, these equations, this formula will be given in your exams. So remember them carefully. If you want to memorize it, write 5 or 10 times, you will remember them well. Okay, children. So this is the formula for refractive index. Next important point is the dispersion of light. Children, the word dispersion may be a new word for you, but what is dispersion? If you know, you will have a clear understanding. You yourself can define what is dispersion. If you observe, we understood the characteristic of prism is when white light falls on one of the refracting surface of the prism, from the other surface, you get a band of colors. This common phenomena which you observe in rainbow only is called as dispersion of light. So if we have to define what is dispersion of light, when white light encounters a prism, it will come as an output as a spectrum of colors. Spectrum means band of colors. The input given as white light here, but the output obtained here is the spectrum of colors. Okay, children, what are the different colors you observe here? Violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. Okay, children, if you take the first letters of these values, you can remember it as Vijor, so that you will have a, because it is easy to remember the band of colors. So remember Vijor. Okay, children. So when white light passes through the glass prism, it splits the white light into 7 colors. This splitting into constituent colors only is called as dispersion. Tell me, what is dispersion, children? The splitting of white light into its constituent colors when it encounters a prism is called as dispersion of light. Have you ever wondered, children? These spectacular colors are wonderful to look at, isn't it? So when you look at the rainbow also, you must be wondering what should be the reason for it. Isn't it, children? So let us observe and understand closely what exactly is the dispersion of light. Here, let me draw your attention to an activity shown here, children. How a rainbow is formed in the, sorry, how a spectrum of colors is seen on a screen is observed here in this activity. So in your laboratory, you have to take a narrow beam of light. Okay, children, how do we get narrow beam of light? We get if we arrange a slit. Okay, so this dispersion by a prism can be observed. Look at the white light is taken. A narrow beam of light is allowed to fall on one of the refracting surfaces of the prism. What happened now? From the other refracting surface, a band of colors is getting emerged out of the prism. And if you catch them on a screen, you can see various colors, that is the band of colors or the spectrum of colors as violet, indigo, blue, green, and yellow, orange, and red. Okay, children. Did you all understand how did we get? Whenever a narrow beam of light is sent through the prism, what happened? It is encountering the prism at one particular refracting surface, and a band of colors are being emerged out of the prism. Now, let me give you the clear understanding of what is the reason for dispersion. Most of you must be wondering about the splitting of colors. How this one single light is gets splitted as a different colors of light. Isn't it, children? So let me give you the understanding of this. Look at the diagram here, children. See, I have red, orange, green, and blue lights. How they are traveling closely, observe, children. The red light is moving faster, isn't it? Look at the blue light. It is moving slowly. The speed of this blue light seems to be slow. But if you observe the wavelength, the wave pattern of these colors, if you observe, they are different. The wavelength of red seems to be greater because it is traveling with greater speed. Can you observe look at the diagram carefully, children? Especially look at the red and blue. Red has greater wavelength and greater speed. Blue has smaller wavelength and smaller speed also. Okay, children. So because we know sunlight is white light, And always remember, children, sunlight is composed of 7 colors. The spectrum of colors are within it. That means the sunlight is composed of these Vibgyor colors. And each color is represented with its wavelength. Wavelength is represented by delta. So each color has its own wavelength. And when sunlight passes from sun to earth, when it comes from sun to earth, first of all, it passes through vacuum. Then only it will reach the atmosphere of the earth. Isn't it, children? So this white light of different wavelengths, when it passes through vacuum, it has the same speed. That means through vacuum, this light, all the wavelengths in the white light will have same speed, but when it encounters the refracting medium, that is atmosphere, each wavelength has its own speed. That means different wavelengths have different speeds, as you observe here in this diagram. Did you observe, children? So these wavelengths travel at different speeds when they pass through this refracting medium. So let me give you different wavelengths of these colors. So if you observe, children, violet, blue, cyan, green, yellow, orange, and red. Okay, children. So these colors have different wavelengths. Okay, so these wavelengths pattern, if you observe, wavelength is increasing from violet to red. That means the wavelength of violet is smaller and the wavelength of the red is greater. And look at the frequency pattern. Because the wavelength of the violet is smaller, the frequency of violet is greater and the frequency is slowly decreasing as the wavelength is increasing. Can you observe, children? So which is having the greatest frequency? Violet light. And which is having the lowest frequency? That is red color. Okay, children. So the wavelength of violet light is greater and the frequency, sorry, wavelength of violet light is smaller and the frequency is greater. Similarly, the wavelength of red color is greater and the frequency of red color is smaller. Look at the energy of each color also. Energy is also slowly decreasing as you move from violet to red. Red has the least photon energy and violet has the greater photon energy. But here in this slide, you have to remember violet has least wavelength, red has greater wavelength. Children, to remember this point that red has greater wavelength, in the traffic signals, in the danger signals, which light is mostly used? Red light, isn't it? Why red light is used? Because it has greater wavelength. It can be even seen from longer distances because it has greater wavelength. So remember like that. Because red is used in danger signals because it has greater wavelength. So this is the trick to remember that that red has a greater wavelength and violet has smaller wavelength. Okay, children. So let me give you the understanding of cause of dispersion. We learned so far, look at this diagram, children. We learned so far that violet has a smaller speed and red has greater speed. And we also learned violet is having, what is that we have? The speed of the violet light is less. And what about the refractive index of the violet light? We have the expression mu is equal to C by V. Do you remember, children? The formula for refractive index is the ratio of speed, the speed of light in the vacuum by the speed of light in the medium. So if you observe, mu is inversely proportional to speed of violet light or speed of light. That means what will be the refractive index of the violet light now? Because violet has smaller speed, refractive index will be greater for violet light. What will be the refractive index of red light? Tell me, because refractive speed of red light is greater, refractive index will be smaller because they are inversely proportional. And we have also V is equal to nu lambda, from where we can say mu is inversely proportional to lambda. Mu is equal to 1 by lambda gives us mu is inverse. That means the greatest wavelength is by which color is having greater wavelength? That is violet. So it has less refractive index, lower refractive index. And violet color, which is having smaller wavelength, will have greater refractive index. So what can we write? The speed of violet light is lower than the speed of red light, and the refractive index of a medium is larger for violet light because its speed is smaller, and it is least for red light because its speed is greater, and that is what is taken as mu v is greater than mu r. Therefore, what happens? Because the refractive indices are different, bending of violet light colored is maximum because it has greater refractive index. Its bending is maximum. Okay, children. And red color light is minimum. So the difference in bending of these different colors only is because of this phenomena. Okay, children. So this difference in bending of different colors results as dispersion. What did we understand, children? Depending on the wavelength, each color has its own speed, and its speed is different because of its refractive index. Because the refractive index of medium is larger for violet light and least for red light, the bending of violet colored light is maximum and bending of red colored light is minimum. Okay, children. So this bending is different for different colors. That is why you can see this refraction of lights. Can you observe, children? Isn't it colorful? Yes. So the hope this discussion also is colorful. Hope you understand the what is the reason for dispersion. Okay, children. Now let me give you some understanding. The same refractive index of a prism formula, if we apply for a small angled prism, what happens? We know for when the angle is small, sine theta can be approximately equated to theta. You know this mathematical expression, isn't it, children? So whenever the angle of deviation is small, we can take sine theta to be equated to just theta. So sine a by 2 can be written as sine a by 2 can be written as a by 2. Sine a plus d by 2 can be written as a plus d by 2. Okay, children. Then what is mu equal to? That is refractive index equal to a plus d, sine a plus d by 2. Instead of that, we have to write a plus d by 2. Then instead of sine a by 2, we have to write a by 2. So we take the ratio of these two and we get 2 gets cancelled on numerator and denominator. We get mu is equal to a plus d by a, and that is a by a plus d by a. So a by a gets cancelled and you get 1. 1 plus d by a. That means mu is equal to 1 plus d by a. And if you write what is d by a equal to, that is mu minus 1. Okay, children. So what is angle of deviation equal to? That is a into mu minus 1. Okay, so deviation angle also depends on the angle of prism and the refractive index of prism. Okay, children. So D is equal to A into mu minus 1 for the small angled prism. This you have to remember for solving the numerical problems based on this formula. D is equal to A into mu minus 1 or n minus 1. That is why I have given mu and n. Sometimes it will be represented as n, and sometimes, so whatever may be the representation, mu or n should be taken as refractive index. Okay, children. Now let us understand what is angular dispersion. Look at the diagram here, children. What is angle of dispersion? See, when white light encounters a prism, it will disperse the light. Each color is deviated at different angles, which gear is seen here. Isn't it, children? So what is angular dispersion? What are the extreme colors present here? The red color and the violet color. Here, if you observe, violet color is deviating most and red color is not deviating more. That is, it is deviating less. What does it mean? Because it has greater wavelength. Remember, children, and violet has smaller wavelength. It deviates more. This phenomenon again, it will be used to understand the blue color of the sky also. Okay, children. So remember carefully this point. The wavelength of red color is greater, so the deviation is less for it, and the deviation for violet light is greater. Now let me give you understanding of what is angular dispersion. It is the angle between the deviation of two extreme colors. That means the angle subtended between the emergent violet light and the red light from a prism is called as angular dispersion. That is the angle between the red colored ray and the violet colored ray. This is the angular dispersion and it can be represented with theta. So theta is equal to mu minus 1 into A. Then we can also define like this. The difference in the angle of deviation for any pair of colors. You can take any pair of colors. It can be green and orange, or it can be green and yellow. It can be violet and orange, anything. So the difference in the angle of deviation of any pair of colors is also called as angular dispersion for those two colors. Okay, children. So what is the difference between the angles? The angle of deviation of violet light is delta V and the angle of deviation of red light is delta R. Then delta V minus delta R is theta. You can observe here. This is red colored ray, so this is delta R, and this is violet color ray, delta V. So delta V minus delta R gives us the angular dispersion. And we know that theta is equal to mu minus 1 into A. And we can also write this formula. Delta V minus delta R means mu V minus mu R into A. Can we write, children? Yes. So theta is equal to mu V minus mu R into A. So this is about angular dispersion. Next important point is dispersive power of a prism, and it is represented with omega. Now, what is the definition of dispersive power? Listen carefully. Actually, if you observe, it is the ratio of angular dispersion between two colors to the deviation of mean ray. What is the mean ray among all the 7 rays? Yellow color light, isn't it? So mean deviation is the angle of deviation of yellow light. So what can we write? Delta omega equal to, that is dispersive power, equal to ratio of angular dispersion between two colors, that is violet and red. I have considered here. So ratio of the two color deviation mean means delta y. So it is the angular dispersion between two colors delta v minus delta r and the mean deviation delta y. So it is the ratio of the dispersion between two colors and angular dispersion between two colors and the mean deviation. Okay, children. So omega is equal to delta V minus delta R by delta Y is the expression for dispersive power. Okay. So what is the SI unit of this dispersive power? Usually, what is the unit of power? Watt. So here also the power, dispersive power of the prism is also measured in watts. Okay, children. So this is about the dispersive power. So that's all for today, children. If you have any doubts, you can drop in the message box and I will clear your doubts. And please do watch the previous sessions also so that you will have the better understanding. Okay, children. So let us discuss now what we have learned already. First of all, we learned about the definition of prism. Then we have learned also refraction through prism, refractive index of the material of a prism. Then we learned about dispersion of light and the reason for the dispersion of light. Then we learned the terms angular dispersion and dispersive power. Okay, children, hope you had a good understanding of these topics. Here, have courtesy of the videos and animations that I have used in this session. And I give you some assignment or questions here. Listen, take down the questions or take the screenshot, children. First question is, what is refraction and dispersion? We have discussed both the phenomena. So are they different or are they same? You just discuss and write. Then in a spectrum obtained with prism, which color is deviated maximum? And you can here you can also add which color is deviated minimum also. Okay, children. Then how dispersive power and angular dispersion are related. Next, you have a problem here. A ray of light passing through a glass prism of refracting angle 60 degrees undergoes a minimum deviation of 30 degrees. Calculate the velocity of a light in glass. And velocity of light is, we know that in the centimeters, we know c is equal to 3 into 10 to the power of 10 centimeters per second. Okay, children, using these values, you find the value for the velocity of light in the glass. Okay, children. So if you cannot do this problem, I will solve it in the next session. Okay. Plus, so wait for the next session to be to get the more understanding of the important phenomena of rainbow and the scattering of light. Are you all waiting, children? Yes. Okay. So this is what that's all for today, children. Hope you have good understanding.
Sir, winter setup.
Thank you all.
Sir, Naveen sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Joshi.
Thank you, madam.
It was a wonderful presentation, and thanks for the valuable learning points you have provided with clear pictorial animated representations. When children practice all the derivations and internalize the concepts of reflection, refraction, refraction, and total internal reflection in the derivative parts of the refractive index and dispersion also. So I really enjoyed the session, and hope students are benefited by the knowledge shared with expertise. So see you all in another interesting session of ray optics and optical instruments. Thanks, Mrs. Joshi Prasanna.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.